And humble hearts. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your kind words about Captain Lane. Just a quick comment. Thank you to all of you for your support. I know our city departments really pitched in and had a very fitting tribute to Clay Lane, and as you suggest, his family will need your prayers and support as we move ahead. So if you have that opportunity to remember him and his family, please do. So, and again, thanks to the chief and everything the police department did to, again, honor Captain Lane and everything he did for the city. So, 26 years with the department, and he'll be missed. So, all right. Well, let's let the minutes reflect we are short one council member, Josh Finch. So there are 6 of us here tonight. And we'll start with the approval of the minutes from the October 18th meeting. Those have been presented in board pack. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve them as presented?
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Excuse me.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Welcome to all our visitors tonight. Appreciate you coming on a not too cold yet. It's going to get colder. Lynn said something about the S word. I told her to watch herself because it probably will happen this month, but let's not worry about that. All right. Lynn, you do have a cable franchise fee third quarter report from Mediacom. Again, it's a whopping amount, $292.25. Any comments?
Pretty steady there at the Mediacom area.
All right. All right, duly noted. All right, so with no unfinished business, let's move into new business. First item on the agenda would be the 2022 nonprofit funding approval. I know Cindy and her committee have done a lot of work on this. I appreciate that. This is always comes down to some changes last minute that she is presenting tonight. I do want you to note that the $25,000, the fourth item down, it says Warsaw Housing Authority, $25,000 2022 request match to rehab the Comstock House. That is not Warsaw Housing Authority. It's Housing for Hope. That is the new home of your own, or excuse me, Warsaw Housing Opportunities of Warsaw. There's so many acronyms. Housing Opportunities of Warsaw does not exist anymore because HUD told Warsaw Housing Authority that as providers of Section 8 funding, they are not allowed to be a CHOTA, which is a community housing organization, to do this type of work. So Pam had to eliminate that, and Kurt picked that up, and he's renamed that CHOTA, Housing for Hope. They basically will perform the same role in the community. These funds, the CDA funds for home of your own repairs, and as an example, this Comstock House match will all be now administered through Housing for Hope, which is a Bowen Center organization. It's a CHOTA. But that's what's changed this year. The city, Warsaw Housing Authority cannot also participate and be Housing Opportunities of Warsaw anymore. They're not allowed by federal regulation. So that's why that's changed. So in essence, both of those requests, the $25,000 for the Comstock House and $10,000 for budgeting and home buyer programs, are both Housing for Hope as the agency. And the home of your own repair, those are what you all have generously allowed Housing Opportunities to do in the past. When there's a critical repair for someone who's at a certain income level, poverty, below poverty income level, typically critical repairs like a new furnace or a bad roof or another emergency type of repair. And that's where those funds come from. So, with that correction, Cindy, I'll turn it over to you and entertain your discussions. And the budget has been approved for the maximum amount allowed by ordinance, but this would be your rubber stamp on these specific requests.
A couple of things that I would note. First of all, down at the bottom of the chart that I gave you are some items that, in the last couple of years, we have moved down into general contracts. And just to kind of give you an idea on the Animal Welfare League, and the request was up a little bit from last year, but I did get the numbers of the animals, and these are ones that were taken in by Warsaw residents, the Warsaw Police Department, whatever, but they are all Warsaw related. 582 animals in 2020. So when you look at that total compared to what they are charging us, there's really no way that we could provide that type of service for that many animals. And I was kind of stunned when I looked at the totals. So it actually worked out about $60 per animal, which I believe is probably far less than what their cost is for that. The Warsaw Housing Authority, and I'm glad the mayor clarified that because I think I was a bit confused actually by what came in on the application. But the Warsaw Housing Authority, the $35,000, that actually goes to fund 200, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 250 requests within our community. And the facade grant, that has stayed the same for many, many years now at $25,000. So those were things that actually got moved down into general contracts. Then going back up to the nonprofit request, for the most part, we kept everything pretty much the same as last year. At any rate, a lot of the organizations asked for the same that they asked for last year. In a situation where they asked for more, we went with just a straight 5% increase across the board for those organizations in an effort to be fair and not discriminate and say, okay, well, we're going to give this one a 10% increase and that one 4% and so forth. So as you'll see, I've noted on their 5% increase. CAMS, it looks a little bit different this year. Last year was a bit unusual as at the last minute they got some unexpected funding relative to COVID. And so we kind of then went back to actually what we had pretty much done in 2020 for Cardinal and the CAMS match. We have routinely gone ahead and provided a match for them to purchase a new vehicle and then contributed funds to the operation or to CAMS in order to provide transportation for people in our community. CCAC repairing soccer fields, and we did bump that up. They requested 31. We bumped it up 5% from last year. I think the mayor has explained the housing situation there. Senior services, they had asked for 25, and again, we just bumped theirs up 5%, gave them an extra $1,000 increase. Historical Society, that was a new one for us this year. I think in the past, perhaps we have provided a little bit of funding for them. At this point, they're needing to update their computer system, and we rely upon that somewhat, particularly the cemetery. I know they have worked really hard in helping Hal and the folks at the cemetery keep their records updated. Joe's Kids, that was, again, one that they actually asked for less than they did last year. Kosciuszko Home Care and Hospice, they are purchasing a new donor management platform. And if you notice in the newspaper, they're kind of changing their focus a little bit because there have been such severe reductions in reimbursement from Medicare, Medicaid, and so forth. So again, that got the 5% increase. Kosciuszko Shelter for Abuse. Typically, we've provided funding primarily for the crisis hotline, but this is the breakdown of what they asked for. In the past, we have asked that the money actually be put toward the crisis hotline. The $3,983 you see there is actually only a portion of what it costs to operate that. And they ascertained that they served about 250 Warsaw residents it would have been 2020. Lilly Center, that's the same, no increase. Live Well Kosciuszko, that was a new organization, and we're kind of feeling our way along with that. So we did a lot of small stipend of $5,000. WCDC, their request was a little more than last year, but less than 5%, so we did leave that in at what they asked for. So if anyone has any particular questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Cindy, I'll kind of clarify that organization. It's a community housing development organization, and it is set up by HUD, and it is a very specific type of organization that handles rehab and the development of affordable housing. So that's what Housing Opportunities of Warsaw had been for a long time, and now Housing for Hope, it's a CHDO.
Cindy, on the last one on Warsaw Little League, in the past, we haven't funded just requests to fund programs, and they've asked us for very specific things, but I see here, this looks more like a request to just keep their program going rather than...
And it is, so that may be something we might want to perhaps reconsider. I think last year they were working toward a field for special needs, and in the past, I think we've done like maybe parking lot areas.
I think we
and
did
so
too.
forth.
Maybe bleachers or something.
Bleachers or
It was the
something.
bleachers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not that I don't want to give them money, but I was wondering if we could contact them and ask them to put it toward a specific project rather than their general operational costs, because, the way the statute's written, we wouldn't really be funding just general operational costs. So everything else here, we can point to a specific thing that the money's going toward, except that one.
And I can certainly contact them. I did not do that this year. Last year, I did have quite a conversation with them about the fields for the special needs, and I'm not even sure whether they completed those, whether that's still, and I will be glad to contact them.
So I'm not necessarily saying I want to change it, but I would just maybe ask the
Sure.
committee to follow through and remind them that the money's not for operational costs, but to help with specific projects.
Let's see if I could pull their application up here real quick and.
No, and I think you could specify maybe in a motion that money's not to be used for operations and potentially for a
Okay.
capital project, just to make sure it's quite clear from your all approval of what you want that spent for.
Okay.
We had a chance to sit down with them and talk with the Little League, and I know that they're working towards, it's a league, special needs league, a baseball league. It's a really neat program. I don't know how far along they are with it and how this money could apply to that.
Right, like
I'm not
maybe
gonna
they
speculate.
need a computer program to do
Yeah.
it, or they need brochures, or they need,
They did have,
Marketing.
now that I'm looking, that was their main thrust that they had, is their main reason, but as I'm looking at this, they also had repair, netting, and fencing from ice storm damages, and I'm assuming that maybe some of that's been done. Also, yeah, that was primarily the thing they have, but yes, I can follow up with them.
okay.
I would agree with Diane. We worked real hard trying to get it to this point where they were giving us items that they would be spending the money on. And, if we let one back in at this point, then the floodgates be open again next year, everybody be saying, you know, why, they could do it last year, why not us this year? So, and to your point, even more, is the fact that that's what we're supposed to be, putting it towards its code.
Other comments?
I
Questions?
feel comfortable making a motion then that we accept them as presented with the stipulation that we have a specific project request from the Warsaw Little League.
I can contact them and bring that back.
And I would second that.
Second, Jack. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Sorry I
Right.
didn't catch that before tonight.
Yeah, I should have picked up on it too. I did remember when I read through there that they had repairing fencing and so forth.
Yeah.
I would like to thank Cindy and the committee again for this. This is one of those committees that take an awful lot of extra work. And I appreciate it, and thank you, Cindy.
Definitely.
Thanks to Jeff and Jerry.
All right, let's move on to item number 2, Resolution 2021-1110. This is a transfer of funds for Parks Department. Larry Plummer is here to present this. As Larry's coming up, I'll tell you this is a very exciting project. Larry's worked hard to get this done. Larry, I want you to brag about this project and explain how transfer fund is going to help you see it through.
Yeah, I'm requesting to transfer $30,000 from park insurance to park equipment. This will cover the upfront cost from the KCC RVC Commission grant that we received for the kayak kiosks. The kiosks are in place. We do not have the kayaks and the mechanisms in there yet. We're going to wait until April when we kick this off to put those inside.
They're probably on a boat somewhere.
Yeah, no, they're here. I've got them. I've got everything, Diane, but they were on a boat. But no, we're really looking forward to this. It's an opportunity. We'll have 8 kayaks at each beach for rentals. You simply download an app, Rent Fun app on your phone. You can scan it. You get the kayak, a paddle, and a life jacket out. You can rent it for an hour or 4 hours. Put it back in. The next guy can rent it. I mean, I think it's something we're the first one in the state of Indiana that I know of that's got one of these. So it's very great. We're all excited. The community's excited about it. So this, like I said, this transfer will cover the equipment costs now, and then I'll take the receipt to the Commissioner's Bureau and ask for the 100% reimbursement for that. So it's $29,660 is the actual amount. I just requested $30,000. So
Questions? Diane, you're smiling like a
I
Parks
am.
Board member.
Yeah, the Parks Department's really excited about this. We've been
yes.
waiting for a couple years, and so,
It's going to be a good program.
yeah.
And we'd like to, if this is successful, it was successful in Toledo. Toledo Metro Parks did this, and they raised about $20,000 in revenue doing this. So, I don't know what our revenue will be off of it, but our hopes are to gain revenue and just keep adding to it. We want to do paddle boards, we want to do canoes and things of that sort. We have Great Lakes and we want to utilize them. That's something that's been in our 5-year plan for the last 10 years to utilize our lakes. So we're excited.
And we anticipate that if we need to replace any equipment or anything, we can also do that with the revenue rather than being
Absolutely.
additional costs, so.
Yes.
So these funds will be reimbursed 100%. We're just moving them because there's a requirement that the vendor be paid.
Yeah.
And we want to take care of that. So,
Yes.
any questions or comments? If not, is there a motion regarding
moved.
Resolution 2020-1110?
I'll move. We accept it.
Motion made by Jerry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Diane? Don't know what took you so long, but,
Well, I thought maybe somebody else wanted to get in on the act.
all right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry. All right. Item number 3. This is another transfer resolution, 2021-1103. This is regarding a downtown streetscape study. I'll just give a little bit of background. Our current streetscapes have been, they're about 20 years old, and we're looking at replacing some elements of those. Don't have to do a full-blown study, but we're looking at potentially replacing the blocks so we don't have the issue with the shifting. Looking at potentially some stamped concrete type blocks or faux block, if you will. We are in the process of replacing the trees that are 20-year-old and needing to be replaced. Actually, we're going to accelerate that process this year. Justin and Dustin and Larry, we've all sat down and looked at what needs to be done, and we felt like having a plan that we can execute and potentially fund. We'll have to fund it, obviously, to get it executed, but Justin has taken the bull by the horns and has actually got some drawings and even a spot for a prototype. So, Justin?
Yeah, so we did a version in-house, but we really wanted to get a professional to look at our streetscapes as they're aging. The need for maintenance has become apparent. So we want to have a professional firm take a look at this. This transfer will enable us to contract them to take a look at our streetscapes, give us best practices and different maintenance schedules and planting, plant types that we could use in our downtown to help improve our streetscape. So I'd just ask that you approve this transfer resolution. It's moving $54,200 from the CCI budget for improvements other than buildings, and then transferring that to professional services where we could contract with this firm to take a look at our streetscapes downtown. So.
Questions? Comments?
Are they going to provide you with like a strategic plan for the historic downtown area, or what?
They wouldn't go block by block, but they would kind of give us a template. So they would give us, like I said, best practices, construction documents. So it would be we could adjust the dimensions of the planters and different things as needed according by block. But what they'd be giving us is kind of a guideline so that we could. In the future, we could do these streetscape improvements as we need to, and then and do maintenance on what we have currently as well. So,
How long do they think that'll take?
we asked them to have it done by the springtime, so that they'll work with us. They'll work with Dustin at the streets department to ask him questions about maintenance and what their abilities are. And then they'll meet with the different department heads to kind of make sure their needs are being met with some of these recommendations.
Seems kind of pricey to me, but
Well, Jerry, I fully believe that this is important.
Yeah.
Looking at 20 years and what I consider was a very beautiful streetscape that was presented back in the early 2000s. Obviously, materials have changed. We've learned from what we did, and we need to, if we're going to update it, we want it to be consistent, and we want it to look good throughout the downtown. We talked about doing a lot of this work in-house, just going section by section and replacing those that need it the most and kind of patching it together. I don't see any consistency with that approach, and I know the downtown merchants deserve better than that. I know Cindy has been somewhat of a spokesperson, knowing some of the concerns we've had. And again, 20 years, that investment from 20 years ago has to me paid dividends in our downtown. But obviously, there are issues with those that we will address with this. But I fully support this. This needs to be a professional design. And no offense, but we can't do it in-house as well as professional could. So I wouldn't call it a feasibility study. It would just be a plan that we can implement at our pace, at our discretion, at our budget. Would we want to do it all at once? Maybe. But we need to obviously get the numbers and see what's involved as far as costs to actually do the project. And then potentially we can break it up into phases. So that's the purpose of of the plan.
And we're not approving the contract tonight. That would go before Board of Works, so there still need to be an approval of that contract as well. So this is just to transfer the funds to enable us to use it for a consultant to look at this. So that would still need approval.
I think maybe looking at it too from the standpoint that, well, I don't think the Hyatt Palma study was that inexpensive at the time we did that proportionately. And it's been 20 years, so we got quite a lot of mileage out of that. So I think it would behoove us to spend the money to have that guidance. And I guess with that, I would make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-11-03.
Okay, Cindy made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, now, further discussion.
I just want to say, I think this is a really great idea. You know, having had a business in the downtown for many decades, I feel there's a real need to address this and look at this. My question, I guess, is if you know, when they present the plan, who's going to see this plan? Does it have to be approved by anybody? Are you going to bring it to this body or the Plan Commission? Or will you seek input from the results that you get from the firm? Or
So we've kind
what
of
are
been
going to
working.
be the mechanics, I guess, is
Yeah, we've been working with a small committee that includes the streets department, planning, just as a subcommittee for the streetscape improvements. Cindy's been at the meeting as well, and so we were intending to continue with that group. If there's a need to add more voices into that, we could potentially look at that.
do you have any downtown merchants other than Cindy on your committee?
It was more in-house, like addressing the needs of the city and maintenance and those kind of things. The elements that would affect the business owners would hopefully rely on the professionals to advise us of what works best for aesthetics and functionality on the streetscape.
Yeah, this is not going to be an overhaul. It's going to be 2.0. So it's going to take the existing and build on that.
And I like the idea of using the professional services from the standpoint that if we tried to do everything in-house, we may not learn the things that we could by going outside. New materials, new ideas. And I think that's as important as anything to putting together not just something that's aesthetically pleasing, but will endure as well. So I'm really kind of behind doing it this way.
I think
I'd
it's
like to
pretty
learn from other communities' mistakes.
Yeah.
We've made our own in what we've got right now. So, having somebody that works with a lot of other communities would give us input as to what's worked well and what hasn't.
But I think it's important to seek the input of the downtown merchants too, and let them have a say, because nobody knows better than them. It's going to affect them, and no one knows better than them, what might work.
I'm sure that this plan will be
I think it's
vetted with the public. I have no doubt about it. But we're going to present a plan, and then we'll go from there. That's all part of the process.
Yeah, it'd be nice to maybe bring it to one of the downtown merchant meetings or something once the plan is together and maybe get some input, but.
Yeah, and I didn't by any means mean that we should just accept what they had to say. I think that as they present it to us, again, bringing in some of the downtown merchants, a lot of people need to be involved in this as well. So-
I don't have had very little experience with projects and with consultants that don't have a public input portion to them.
Yes.
That's true.
It's just the way, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that it stays part of
Yep.
it.
Yeah. I think it's really important right now because we're kind of on the cusp of some new things downtown. We've got some buildings in transition, some buildings being rehabbed at this point in time, and so it's a great time to take a look at some of these
Yeah,
things.
there's a sense of a little momentum happening downtown.
Absolutely. All right, any more comments? There's been a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I'm staying.
All right, let the minutes reflect it passes 5-0 with one abstention. Councilman Frush. All right. Before we take up item 4, we've got one more resolution that I don't believe will take long, and I'd prefer to skip to item number 5, do resolution 2021-1102. This is a transfer from police salaries to machinery and equipment, and I'll let Chief Police present this.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I just request that you authorize the transfer of Resolution 2021-11-02 of $77,000 from police salaries to that of police machinery and equipment. And as the letter reads, that is, the purpose of this is multiple reasons, but probably the largest is that we lost a vehicle this year we weren't expecting to lose, so that put us behind a vehicle. We've replaced that as a K-9 vehicle, so the equipment was even more expensive. But anticipation as well, we have a 2022 model that's available to us, and we don't really foresee or really know still what the future is going to hold when it comes to purchasing. We're hearing things now that things are going to change, but we certainly don't know that, and I'm not hearing that from all the dealerships. So with that being said, we had the opportunity to make a purchase, just asked that we move the money that we have in the budget.
Councilman Gross, I think from the Board of Works standpoint, you can attest to what we faced this year with approving vehicle purchases and then not having the availability and having to go back on some of these things just because their vehicles aren't available.
Great point. And other departments have also been doing the same thing due to concerns. They've been being very proactive, aggressive because of the nature or the season that we're in. So I think good idea.
So these funds could be used for purchase this year, I'm assuming.
Yes, this will be this year. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm expecting to make the purchase as soon as the approval is made for basically to continue outfitting some of the cars that we just purchased, and then the purchase of this new car and to outfit that new car. And in addition to that is some of that would be to replenish some of the funds for the purpose of purchase of bulletproof vest. And to piggyback off, I guess, of our conversations with the need for cars, currently with the Warsaw Police Department's hiring process, we have 6 applicants we believe that will be hired before mid-December. So we're excited about bringing on a new group of young officers.
So questions regarding the transfer?
Lynn, do you have the paperwork for this? We just see
Yeah,
the
ours is
memo.
blank.
We just see the memo. I mean, we have the fund numbers. I just want to make sure it's all good.
Yes, Scott is asking to transfer.
Oh, the resolution's not on there?
Can't see it. There's a page, but it's blank.
It's blank, yeah.
So I just want
Maybe
to,
it was intentionally left blank.
No, I've got it on mine.
let me see.
Yeah, I got it on mine too.
Well, it's transferring 77,000 from
Yeah.
1006, 111 police salaries to 10106, 445.3 police machinery and equipment. So it's going from salaries to
It's on
police
mine.
machinery and equipment. 77,000.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, further discussion?
Is this for a patrol car? Is that what we're talking about?
That's correct, yes. It'd be for a 2022 Dodge Durango.
It seems to be the hot car this year. It's what the fire department's been buying
Yeah.
too.
The hot cars, whatever's available.
Yeah.
All right.
Available.
Any other comments? All right, motion has been made and seconded.
Wait.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Let the minutes reflect that, passed 6-0. All right, Scott, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 4. This is being brought to you from the Department of Building and Planning, Ordinance 2021-1101. This is the Greenbriar Planned Unit Development. I will let Justin introduce this. I know several of you have been involved in these discussions at the planning department level. So, Justin?
Yeah, and I'm going to keep my comments relatively brief to allow their Greenbriar representative, Tom Neese, a little bit more time to kind of fill you in on the details. But just as a recap, plan unit development, the council approved one earlier this year in February. It's a tool that we have built into our ordinance that allows the city a little bit more flexibility with how developers can create density, or we can adjust more quickly to market changes or a need for housing like we currently have. So this is a tool that was designed in our ordinance, and we're able to utilize it now to kind of facilitate development. So this PUD is being proposed just east of the intersection of 350 North and Airport Road. It's a 9-acre tract of land, and in your packet there's a development, there's a map of the development, and this conversation tonight is regarding the area that's enclosed in red and shaded, just so you know it's not regarding the entire development, just that corner chunk of it. So it's a 9-acre tract of land, and they're proposing 42 lots, and this would be attached single-family residential units. So at the conclusion, the council will have 3 different options. You'll be able to either approve this PUD ordinance in generality, and then hear it a second time, and you would be able to approve it as a council. You would also be able to approve it in general terms, and then kick it back to the Plan Commission, as you did for the Gateway Grove PUD. The Plan Commission looks at all the developments going in the city, so they're a little bit more equipped to review some of those subdivisions. And then the third option, obviously, would be to table or deny the request. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom Neese, and he will fill you in on some of the details.
All right, while Mr. Neeser's on the way up, I do want to draw your attention to the comments from Justin that what we're asking tonight, and it shows on page 1 of your notes, that the council take one of 3 actions. One is to approve the ordinance in general terms and retain secondary review and detail to this council. So this board would be responsible for secondary review. The second option is to approve the ordinance in general terms and delegate secondary review back to the Plan Commission. And then, of course, the third would be to deny the ordinance and do nothing. I want to refer to the city code that's listed. And if you go to page 3, 13.2, it very specifically addresses this option that you have. It says the council shall determine whether to retain secondary review or delegate it pursuant to the terms of this ordinance. If the council chooses to delegate secondary review, it shall be delegated to the Plan Commission and conducted as follows, and then explains procedures. So this is very specifically addressed in our city ordinance, that you have the ability to approve it and either retain the secondary review control or pass it along back to the Plan Commission. And I'll certainly ask Justin for his recommendations with that. But before we get to that, Mr. Tom Neeser is representing the petitioner, and I know he's probably got a few things to say.
Just a few, Mayor. Thank you. Members of council, my name's Tom Neeser. I'm an attorney with Barrett McNagny in Fort Wayne, 215 East Berry Street. I represent Oakmont Development Company. They're the proposed developer for this project known as Villas of Greenbriar. Mike Thomas, who has been with me at all the Plan Commission meetings, who I know Councilman Gross, Councilman Quantz have seen or met, extends his apologies. His mother-in-law passed Friday, and her funeral was today in Wakarusa, and he is presently there with family, so he extends his apologies for being unable to attend tonight. The Villas of Greenbriar in the PUD in front of you is a 42-lot PUD. It is a sister development right next door and east of the primary plat of Greenbriar, which is an 86-lot residential subdivision. The primary plat of Greenbriar has been approved by your Plan Commission, is fully compliant with your ordinance of all development standards, and is on its way towards secondary review and submittal to your plan commission. The PUD, that area highlighted in red, as Justin indicated, is immediately east of and is a zero lot line residential development. In other words, it's a villaminium development, and the villaminiums will literally be built next door to one another with a zero lot line. This is why we requested a PUD designation, because none of your other zoning designations would allow that zero lot line type of development. And this type of development is really important because it provides for diversity in types of housing that will be offered here at Greenbriar. Traditional single-family residential housing for those who want home maintenance, maybe a little larger home, two-story home, what have you, likely more families. And then the villas of Greenbriar, which will be integrated with it and part of the same neighborhood, part of the same development, will have a villaminium development, zero lot line, typically set aside more for empty nesters, retired individuals, married couples just starting out, what have you. So what Oakmont is doing and their experience suggests and what they believe the market requires here and is calling for in the Warsaw area is this type of residential development, diversity of residential development, all within an integrated basis. We have gone through a couple of reiterations of this plan with your plan commission. Councilman Gross, Councilwoman Quantz will tell you that we started out with a much more expansive PUD development, many more villaminiums than the 42 that are shown here. But after listening to the neighbors, a couple of public hearings, Oakmont went back, reconfigured the plan, and the plan in front of you does a couple of things. It reduces the PUD down to 42 lots. It also provides a secondary access point onto Airport Road. It does provide for a joint common area usage for both Greenbriar and the villas of Greenbriar, and it provides a buffer area for the neighborhood to the south, the Dells, by allowing the Greenbriar subdivision to act as a natural buffer between the villas and the Dells. A lot of good changes, we believe, and we believe overall that the project and the development being brought in front of you tonight is actually better than where it started off from, and that's the sign of a good development. The proposed builder for the Villas of Greenbriar is D.R. Horton. They're the nation's leading residential home builder throughout the country. They do an awful lot of work with Oakmont development, primarily in Allen County. They're very excited to bring their product here and to Kosciuszko. We think you will be very happy with their consistency of design and quality of workmanship that they bring. To address both your concerns and neighbors' concerns, we presented, and I believe it may be in your packet, I know it's in the Plan Commission's packet, with a written commitment that has already been signed by the property owners, Mr. and Mrs. Chandler, and by Oakmont Development. This written commitment is going to be placed of record, assuming that the PUD is approved by you. That written commitment does a couple of things. It limits the total number of lots to 42, just as presented, so that we don't go off the rails here with a much more expansive development. It requires that this be a single-family residential development, not some type of commercial development or multifamily development or something that has not been advertised. And it also creates a set of architectural standards for the front elevations of the homes. And we think all of this is really important and is consistent with supporting Oakmont's representations to the Plan Commission of the type of development that they can expect to see, that your community can expect to see, should this be approved. With that, we believe that this is capable of going back to your plan commission, but by all means, if city council would like the secondary plat to come back in front of it, we're willing to do that as well, but everything that will be submitted will be within the confines of that written commitment. Last, this is Oakmont's first development, we believe, within the Warsaw city limits. It is not its first development within Kosciuszko County. It has two existing developments, one at Tuscany and the other at Raccoon Run subdivision, both within the Winona Lake subdivision or boundaries, I'm sorry. And I know it's very tough sometimes when an out-of-town developer comes in, makes a lot of representations, tells you what's going to, you know, what it can do, and asks basically that you trust them. Here, I hope that the months that have been spent with your plan commission, the time that Oakmont has taken to listen to the neighbors, and its willingness on its own, not through anyone's request, but of its own decision to bring forth a written commitment to put into writing what it's willing to do, demonstrates its commitment to the city of Warsaw and its willingness to bring to you a really good residential subdivision. And it hopes, not its last subdivision, that will come in front of you. Thank you.
All right. So, are there questions for the petitioner?
I just have a few comments from Plan Commission when you're ready for them.
Yeah, I certainly.
Okay. First of all, Plan Commission did approve unanimously to refer this to council with a favorable recommendation. We were very pleased and impressed with how they took into consideration the concerns that we had as a commission, and then also what we heard from the neighbors. One thing we're excited about is the access onto Airport Road. There's really 3 reasons for that. It's from a safety standpoint, it allows emergency vehicles to get in there more easily. And since we are expanding the airport and we'll have emergency vehicles stationed there, it only makes sense that they be able to get across quickly from the airport. Secondly, we're already running sewer line out there with part of the airport expansion and installing a lift station. So again, that puts us in a prime position to receive those services. And then thirdly, the residents of the Dells indicated they were having difficulty with street maintenance from the county, so we asked Justin to contact the county, and they indicated that was because they were at a dead-end road and they couldn't get plows or other machinery in and out, so having that access that they put in from the R1. So even though we're not considering the R1 tonight, when we sent a recommendation to them, we only requested that the lots bordering the subdivision be R1, so that there was a buffer for the Dells that went, residential to residential rather than residential to PUD. But they instead took what we had proposed and said, hey, you know what? It's not that big a deal to make this whole big section all R1, so that it meets all those requirements. The other thing that primarily came from me, but Jeff certainly added to it, was that initially there was only a little teeny tiny strip of green space in there. And we asked for more green area for the residents that were going to be living there. And as you saw in the conditions of meeting a PUD, they need to provide some kind of access or provision for green space. And Jeff, I think, commented, someplace for the kids to throw a ball around, sit down, families to walk, that kind of thing. So it's not located right within the PUD, as he said, and some of you have asked me about that, but it's 5 houses down and up there along 350. So we were very pleased with that as well. I think the other thing that we just felt as a plan commission was that in terms of our preference, we would prefer that you send it back to us because we want to keep a really close eye on drainage. And they've provided some area for drainage so that any drainage would be kept on site and not, flow down into the dells. But we just wanted to make sure that that was taken care of. And also just the complexity of building materials and things like that I've learned more than I ever thought I would know about as to what's allowed and not allowed, that we can keep that uniform for the division. So on behalf of the Plan Commission, we would ask that you approve this and that you refer it back to us then to continue to keep an eye on what's going on. And I don't know if you want to add anything
I'm in
more.
agreement with Diane. I do believe that, again, there's protocols that we have to follow, but I would recommend to the council that we do approve, but ask for secondary review to be by the Plan Commission. One of the comments related to what Diane was talking about, the airport road, if you go to the west side of the addition, there were some concerns with ingress, egress in the Dells development, that traffic flow from the new development would head south into the Dells. We now really believe with ingress, egress on Airport Road, that actually the new development, it will all be northwest or northeast. That new development, people will not go down through the Dells to head south. They'll go to Airport Road. We actually believe that Dells residents on the north side, you can see some of those homes, they actually will find it very nice to have access to that road so they can get out on Airport Road much faster also to go northwest. So another good reason for having ingress, egress on Airport Road. Also, I will say, really appreciate Justin, his efforts as our planner, as well as the developer working with us. This was the public process, like this gentleman shared, and it worked. It worked. Okay, we had to go through several different things, but their patience, their willingness to work with our community, our willingness to work with them, and then Justin's leadership, I think this is a very good proposal for us to approve and recommend back to the Plan Commission. Mayor, is everything good?
Yes. This actually is a public hearing. It was not listed in your, it was advertised as such, but it was not listed on your agenda as such. So we will go through with an advertised public hearing tonight. I just wanted to make sure we were just making sure all the i's were dotted and t's were crossed. So this is a public hearing. So I know you've all been through a lot with this. I know how important housing is to the community, but we want to be responsible. I think what's being presented here tonight is the fruits of a lot of hard work, but nonetheless, I think we need to follow through with the public hearing portion of it and then let you all make the final decision. So any more questions of the petitioner? Any more questions of Justin?
I do have something I do want to say. And I know we're here to talk about the PUD only part of this proposal. I just saw the plans, over the weekend, and having been more than once, twice actually, contacted by constituents about lighting at entrances to additions, I'm looking at the overall plan, which I think is really great. I really like it. I think it would be really important for us to have some kind of lighting at the very entrance to this addition on Airport Road, and especially on County 350 North, because people go at a pretty good clip there. And on a dark night, if you're looking, where do I pull into this neighborhood, and there's no light there to indicate, that could be problematic. And I know we put a light down on 200 South because that was a problem down there. And then we did something over on Husky Trail when I first came on council. So I would ask Plan Commission to look at that and put some lighting at those two entrance points.
All right, duly noted. Thank you. All right, so if there are no other questions of the petitioner or our plan department, I will now open up the public hearing portion of the meeting for any comments. First of all, in support of the petition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in support of the petition? Okay, hearing none, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? All right, hearing no public comment, I will close the public hearing portion of the meeting and defer back to the council for your action. So again, I think what you probably should discuss, or however you want to do it, decide if it goes back to the plan department, if it's approved, or stays here, or if it's not approved. And those are your three options.
I personally like option 2.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I move that the PUD ordinance 2021-1101 be passed or approved by this council in general terms, and then I ask that this council delegate secondary detailed review to the Warsaw Plan Commission.
I'll second that.
All right, motion's been made to approve the PUD ordinance with secondary review deferred back to the Plan Commission, and seconded by Cindy. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Let the minutes reflect the motion passed. Ordinance 2021-1101 passed 6-0.
Mayor?
Yes.
Since-
Are we required to have a second reading on the PUD? I don't believe we are.
It's our understanding that the secondary review, like a typical ordinance, they would go before the council twice unless you suspended the rules, but the secondary review is handled by the Plan Commission. That's the way we've done it in the past. So that's our understanding of the process.
And when the Plan Commission approves, we do not have to move it to here for the total rezone. The
No.
rezone has happened tonight.
Correct.
We've rezoned it to a PUD.
Yeah, and then those
Okay, then
details
it's
will
over.
be ironed out in
Okay.
the Plan Commission.
Thank
But
you.
I think we do still need to suspend the rules and vote a second time on the ordinance, correct?
Yeah. There's no need to suspend the rules. This is the first reading, and then that second reading will happen
We'll
at
go
the Plan
to the
Commission.
Plan Commission?
Yes.
Okay.
That issue has come up in the past with PUDs, and
Yeah,
we've always
I couldn't remember what
determined
we
that
did
there's
on
one
Green-
reading, but the
on Gateway.
secondary review is the second reading.
We did suspend the rules for Gateway Grove, so just did it like you guys just did it tonight.
All right.
That's what I thought. And I just want to again say thanks to the developer because you were very responsive. You listened to our layman's ideas of what you ought to do, and then you made it even better. And so it's been a long process for you to get here, but we appreciate it.
I know the councils believe, everyone got the right here, so they're happy
Yeah, it came out better than any of us envisioned originally, I think even you, so.
All right. Well, thank you, and pass our condolences on to Mr. Thomas, as well as congratulations on tonight's action. All right. Any other matters to come before the council? Jerry?
You know, we talked about, oh God, Ruz, 4th of July and everything about the fireworks ordinance. We ever talked to him or done anything else about that? I still get complaints about fireworks every once in a while.
That's been brought up to the council president. I asked council president to develop that ordinance and decide what the next step is. And I know Jack's probably got a few comments
So,
on
yeah,
that.
I can give you an update on that. We met with the city attorney and as a committee, Councilman Clondaris, Councilman Fitch, and myself. And frankly, I can't get a consensus. I cannot get two council members to agree on what we should present. And so it's, for lack of somebody coming together, dying. It would be nice to have all three of us come back like the planning commission, the members of the plan, and be unanimous in what they propose. But like I said, out of three, I can't even get two. I got one that wants to restrict as much as we can, one who doesn't want to restrict at all, and another who wants to compromise. And that's pretty much where we're at. So unless I can get some movement, that's probably the way it's going to be.
You know, maybe we could come to this body with 3 options and hammer it out and take a vote and see what the majority wants to do. Like we did tonight, we had 3 options. That might be the best way to do it.
I think I'd be careful not to deliberate here. I think if there's a consensus to keep this moving, I think the council president, at your all direction, should make potentially some type of motion and put it out on the floor to deliberate that way.
Okay. Perhaps after the first of the year, we could meet with the attorney, the committee, and I guess I need some clarification in my own mind. It's a very confusing way the state has written the laws, and sometimes I confuse myself with it. With the wording that they've used, it's easy to transpose things. But we won't not do something, I think it would be fair to say.
I think we should do something.
I heard fireworks Sunday morning at 7:55. I heard,
Sunday morning, I
You heard
heard them Sunday morning, yeah, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
We heard them over at Pike Lake, too.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
may I interject here that there is an Indiana code on the books currently that allows for us to stop that by state code whenever fireworks are fired off between 11 in the evening and 9 in the morning. So if those were done at 7, it would have taken, and I believe we had this discussion in our meeting with the 2 chiefs, city attorney and the mayor and myself, and we can do something about that. But it takes somebody calling into the Warsaw PD and complaining. Something which, although we want all these laws or ordinances passed, everybody is very reluctant to make that call unless it's right next to them and somebody's being belligerent and just irritating their neighbor. I must also point out that, you know, I did not hear the fireworks on Sunday morning, if they were fireworks. I did hear a lot of gunshots Sunday afternoon. This time of year, I hear a lot of that. There's a lot of people getting their rifles scoped in for deer season.
that could have
there's
been
a-
coming
there's-
from the skeet place or the Warsaw Rifle Club, or
It could have been.
I don't know.
And the way things echo around the lakes, if the sound gets there, it starts bouncing around as well. So there's a lot to, we have spent a lot of time in the last 4 or 5 months discussing this. I've talked to, like I say, the Warsaw PD,
I would just ask that this go back to the committee that we've established, and if there's a consensus among the 3 committee members to bring it to the council, that's what needs to happen. There's been a lot of discussion, and far be it for us to rehash that tonight. I know there's a lot of detail to this, and I would
Yes.
prefer that the council committee that was established, the 3 members, get back together and determine what they want to do.
Okay. We got our marching orders.
I've appreciated the discussion of the phone calls, the visits, and the exercise, and I'm hoping you guys can come up with something early, and then we'll, put it on the table and we'll vote. Good.
I agree. I continue to get calls.
All right, any other items carried forward?
At this time, Mayor, I just sent a text to Todd Braddock, one of our point men in the Deer Task Force, and I said, how many have we taken at this point? And right now, we are at 27 or 28, depending on what has happened tonight. Again, high percentage doe, and there are several landowners that have been very, very good to us, allowing us on the south side to get in and take deer. So far, we are off to a good start, and I appreciate the council and obviously the mayor's support for the program.
Thanks for the update. When does that end?
January 31st, usually much sooner than that. It just depends on the weather and, how cold, rainy, all that kind of stuff. But so far, pretty good. At probably 28 tonight.
All right. Any visitors' questions or comments? All right. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you all.